Hey guys, it's Angelo, and I hope that you all had a good start into the new year, and hopefully you were able to enjoy the past few days in any way, shape or form. Now, I've been feeling a bit under the weather in the past couple of days, and as you can probably hear, I'm pretty sick, but I don't want that keeping me away from making a video this week. Many of you have been wondering about this, and I've briefly touched on it in my rotation video. If you haven't seen that, by the way, it should pop up on your screen now, and I will obviously leave a link in the description. But the question of when to use Mindbender and Void Torrent in different situations still needs to be answered. The proper use of these two can change quite a bit depending on the situation, and in this video we're going to discuss how you can get the most out of them in any given situation or event. Keep in mind that I'm not going to talk about power infusion in this video, as the only use it currently has is in Surrender to Madness, but once it becomes the prominent talent again, I will be sure to discuss it as well, probably in an update or rather a follow-up to this video somewhere in the future. Good, now with that being out of the way, let's go right ahead and have a look. Just so that we're all on the same sheet of music really quick, or for people who are fairly new to the Shadow Priest, what exactly are Void Torrent and Mindbender? Respectively, they can both be considered your heavy cooldowns and are pretty much essential to your rotation and your general playstyle, as they dictate your void form dynamic in certain situations, allowing you to stay in void form for a lot longer than you would without them. Void Torrent is on a 1-minute cooldown and channels shadow damage onto a target for the duration of 4 seconds while halting your insanity drain during its channel. Since it's halting your insanity drain, the spell does require you to be in void form, which gives it a very unique use and perhaps already shows you that it is a pretty important spell. This is your artifact ability, so you will only have it at level 110 along with your artifact. Mindbender is an option in your level 90 talent row and lets you make use of a Mindbender for the next 15 seconds, generating 8 insanity each time your Mindbender attacks. Now, the duration of your Mindbender goes up through 2 factors: a trait in your artifact called Feeling Dark, and any relic you will find that will buff this trait accordingly. You will want to aim for your Mindbender to be up for around 24 seconds in total, which grants you a formidable amount of damage and an even better amount of insanity, which will depend on your haste. Both Void Torrent and Mindbender actually scale with your haste, meaning they will deal more damage and through their duration the more haste you have. However, neither of them show this in their tooltip, just as a little side fact for you. But when is it effective to use these cooldowns really? Well, let's start us off with Void Torrent. What's important to keep in mind when using Void Torrent are 2 factors: when you can maximize its damage output and when you can use it to benefit your void form's longevity the most. Both factors are equally important, which is why this question can be very two-sided to answer. A lot of Shadow Priests will swear on everything they have that using Void Torrent at the beginning of a void form, so within the first few seconds of entering it, is the best idea. The reasoning behind this is that, firstly, you will be able to keep its uptime completely stable without any fluctuations and can pretty much guarantee its damage once every 60 seconds for 4 seconds. The negative aspect of this, however, is that this will only ever make use of Void Form's damage dynamic and not of its capability to keep you in a long void form. Having a Void Torrent for the first 4 seconds of your void form is quite literally redundant because your insanity drain at this point is way lower than your insanity gain, rendering your Void Torrent's capability to keep you in a long void form useless for the next 60 seconds. The second way to use Void Torrent is to let it halt your insanity at high stacks, close towards the end of your void form. This will allow the spell to channel with a higher amount of haste, dealing more damage and letting you stay in void form for a little longer. It also, ideally, lets you have more lingering insanity stacks to play with while outside of your void form, which will bring you into void form a lot quicker, thus repeating the same process. The negative aspect of this use of Void Torrent, however, is that its damage output will be somewhat unreliable. Should you be able to save your Void Torrent until 50 Void Form stacks in one Void Form, you will not be able to use it until around 40 to 50 stacks in your next Void Form again, which means that if you have to move frequently, or you get interrupted during casting, or you need to target switch, you will run risk of not having your Void Torrent ready when you need it to be, thus falling out of Void Form and breaking the cycle you have recently established. As you can see, the second way of using Void Torrent is definitely more risky, but at the reward of more damage and higher Void Form uptime. Now, if you're new to the Shadow Priest, definitely stick to using it at the beginning of each Void Form. If the boss requires a lot of movement or target switches or anything similar that hinders you, or rather your Void Form uptime, use it at the beginning or early on as well. If you're certain that you can pull a solid and long-lasting Void Form consecutively, then definitely go for the second option, using it later on during your Void Form as a bridge. Now, Mindbender has a more clear-cut use for you, though open to use in two variations as well, and due to its overall debatable higher importance to you, it's a lot easier to determine when to use it and in what situation. Typically, you will want to use Mindbender in accordance with your insanity drain during the late or to middle stages of your Void Form. This can go two ways exactly. Either you use it at around 25 to 30 stacks, maintaining your insanity until it is close to ending, before using a Void Torrent to halt your insanity drain and letting the last few seconds of your Mindbender fill up your insanity bar one last time, giving you one final rotation to play before you drop out. If executed properly, this will easily see you reach 50 stacks of Void Form, more even with a lot of haste, and will allow you to repeat the cycle in your next Void Form. The potential risk in this use, however, is that if your Mindbender is used even a second too late, or you use it when your drain is already too high for the Mindbender's insanity generation to compete with it, you will quickly drop out of Void Form, having a Mindbender that can now not really make use of your Void Form, thus rendering it somewhat useless. The risk of this happening is low, rest assured, but still it can happen. Now, you can also use Mindbender after you've used your Void Torrent. Ideally, this means that you will want to wait until you begin dropping out of Void Form, and then, at around 35 to 40 stacks, want to use the Void Torrent, and immediately afterwards your Mindbender. This will keep you in Void Form for about the same period of time, but again, can be risky because you may not have enough insanity at the start of this process to allow your Mindbender to manage it well enough for you, thus dropping out of Void Form prematurely. Now, the use of Mindbender once more comes down to what's going on in a fight, but more so to your playstyle. If you want to have a more controlled start to your Mindbender, use it later and use Void Torrent before. If you're okay of risking a less controlled start with the reward of using Void Torrent a lot later, then use Mindbender earlier at anywhere between 25 to 30 stacks, depending on your base haste. For me, I will try using Mindbender at around 27 to 31 stacks if possible, depending on how many adds I have Auspicious Spirits flying to and how safe I am standing. Now, I hope this video was of help to you, and hopefully this solves a bit of the confusion concerning when to use these cooldowns. Again, apologies for sounding sick. I hope that I feel better soon so that we can keep going in full force. Thank you everyone for watching, and a special thanks to everyone supporting me over at Patreon. You guys helped me out a lot, and I'm incredibly thankful for it. 2018 is off to a great start, and I'm sure we're all excited for what is to come. Now, as mentioned before, I will focus more on various World of Warcraft guides, detailed reviews, and so on, pretty much as I have been for the Priest, only for as many classes and specs as possible. I'm also going to start streaming soon, just want to throw that back into the room for you, but I'll update you on that accordingly. Now, as always my friends, have a good one, and I will see you all in the next one.